Hello there, I'm John Gallagher from learningherbs.com, and I am with herbalist Rosemary Gladstar, author of these fine books and many others. And on behalf of everyone at Learning Herbs and Mountain Rose Herbs, thank you so much to Sage Mountain for inviting us into your classroom.
Oh, it's actually my honor. I welcome you, and I welcome all of you to join us. I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
And we are going to have a wonderful week sharing some great free things with you. We're really excited to do. But first, that herbal cough syrup, made with the very simple herbal cough syrup that we were just talking about before. Rosemary's actually going to show us how to make it. So I'm going to pass it off to Rosemary to show you how it's done.
Well, this is like so ultra simple. Actually, this was the first syrup that I ever made. I was living in the Canadian backwoods. Actually, I was in my very early 20s, and I was doing that roughing it back to the land, which was so much fun. I'm still doing it. It was so much fun, in fact. And I forget where I learned this recipe. I always try to remember because I think that's part of, I don't know, it's just really nice to pass down the people that you learn these things from. But this recipe, wherever it first came up, I'm not really sure, but it's sure good. And though it was the first syrup that I made, I've made many others, and I still make this. So it's just a simple onion syrup. And yes, John, you can add garlic to it. You can add garlic if you want, or just plain simple onions. And the thing is, I was living in a house that didn't have electricity or running water. I had a wood stove and a big old cook stove that I kept going all during that long Canadian winter. And so all I did with this is I sliced the onions nice and thin in half moons. And you can chop up garlic if you want and add garlic as well. And in my fashion, I'm sometimes adding different things. Sometimes I'll add a little cayenne, etc. But this recipe, this was the way I made it, and it really just turns out so fine. Just doing it in this simple method. Whenever possible, it's nice if you can either grow or purchase organic onions, because the onions actually hold a lot of energy in them. So I like to try to, we grow all of our onions, and that makes it especially nice. And then all I'm going to do with this, I'm going to use some honey, and this is a raw, uncooked honey. So we're not actually going to cook out any of these enzymes. The enzymes are part of what make the medicine. But I just cover, it's just a thin layer of honey that's going to cover the onions. What'll happen, of course, with the onions as they cook down, they get kind of juicy, and they'll add a little bit more liquid to this preparation. But I just start by covering it with a thin layer of honey. And then what I used to do when I had my old wood cook stove, I would set it in the back of the wood stove where it was warm but not hot, and I'd just leave it there actually through the winter. I might have to add more onions, a little more garlic, and a little more honey if I'd been using it a lot. But it just sat back there warm, kind of slowly warming, slowly the honey extracting all that fabulous healing property from the onion and the garlic, if I added the garlic to it. I never strained it. You don't really need to strain it. The onions soften, and they really, it sounds like an odd combination, honey, onion, and garlic, if you're adding that garlic. But really, it's absolutely delicious because it's kind of fiery and pungent, and then it's sweet, and very, very healing and medicinal. The honey actually is acting as a solvent that's extracting the allium and the sulfur, those really healing properties from the onion. And of course, if we did add the garlic, it would even be stronger. So that's really the simplest syrup that you can make, and maybe one of the oldest recipes that you can make. Once you master this, it's really fun to go on and make elderberry syrups and throat coat syrups. There's so many fun syrups. Syrups are especially nice because they're sweet too. So, that old adage, a spoonful of sugar or a spoonful of honey makes the medicine go down. I think it was in relationship to syrups. Great. So when it's ready to take, when the onions start to soften, and really that just takes a couple hours. If you're using an electric stove or a gas stove, it's really like 30 minutes into the cooking, the onions start to soften, and the taste of the honey gets really very sweet. And so, and to take it, all that I used to do is I would just take my spoon in there whenever. Actually, even just as a tonic because it was so tasty, but definitely if you started to feel tingling in your throat or a little bit of a cold or a flu, or you were feeling tired and a little under the weather, I would just take it by the teaspoonfuls. It was quite good, and I gave it to my son all the time. He actually loved it. Another variation that makes it really delicious, you can grate fresh ginger and just put a little fresh ginger in there. So you can see you have so much variation. And I wanted to start by showing you this recipe, not only because it's so simple, so effective, so traditional, so easy to make, but it's actually just made with household herbs that you have and household ingredients that you might have. Honey, most everybody has honey, onions, garlic, and even fresh ginger in the household. So you'll find as you're watching our video that many of the items that we have are just available in your kitchen, maybe wild, growing in your backyard, and hopefully, if not, you'll have a little apothecary or maybe start a little herb garden, and then you'll have a really wide variety of these beautiful healing herbs available to you all the time.